This is WABE's Week in Review, the show where we look back the last few days of stories from your WABE News team. I'm Alex Helmick, managing editor of WABE News. Coming up, this week marks 20 years since Hurricane Katrina made landfall in New Orleans. Families and businesses were uprooted. As thousands settled in places like Atlanta, they had to rebuild their lives and, for many, their businesses, bringing their hometown culture here.
If I think back 20 years, my shop in New Orleans is located in the lower 9 where the barges hit heavy. That's where the disaster happened.
More on that in just minutes. But first, Atlanta City Council is caught in the middle of a fight over what to do about the deterioration of the Fulton County Jail. As WABE's Shemaine Cruz reported, some people held there are again sleeping on the floor.
Some Fulton detainees have been held at the City of Atlanta's jail as the county facility has struggled with overcrowding and bad conditions. And Fulton County Sheriff Patrick Labatt is warning Atlanta City Council members against removing detainees under his custody from the Atlanta City Detention Center.
It will cause more harm, and it will put us as a city and a county where more people, I said this almost 4 years ago, people will continue to die the more we cram people in these spaces.
This comes just days after Fulton County commissioners voted to build a special purpose facility and then renovate the current county jail. County officials, including Labatt, want to keep using the city jail in the meantime, though Labatt opposes the overall plan. That's because it'll take years to complete and cost more than $1 billion, money that Labatt says would be better spent on building an entirely new jail.
My wish list is $2.2 billion.
And $2.2 billion, we got it.
And again, we're going to spend that anyway. This plan, you can't tell me with the rising cost of construction that we're not going to have cost overruns.
The Atlanta City Council has yet to vote on the issue. Shemaine Cruz, WABE News.
A condo in Midtown Atlanta is at the center of President Donald Trump's unprecedented attempt to fire a Georgia-born governor of the Federal Reserve. WABE's Sam Greenglass explained.
Trump had been criticizing the independent Federal Reserve for months for declining to slash interest rates, something the Fed's governors helped decide. Now he's moved to fire one of them, Lisa Cook, an economist appointed by President Joe Biden. Trump cited a criminal referral made by his director of the Federal Housing Finance Agency, accusing Cook of mortgage fraud for claiming both an Ann Arbor, Michigan house and an Atlanta condo above the Midtown Four Seasons as her primary residence. Georgia State University law professor Sam Donaldson says lenders often provide lower rates on a primary residence than a vacation home or investment property.
A bank wants to know that you're going to be living there, so you have an even higher incentive to make timely payments.
But Donaldson says claiming two primary residences doesn't necessarily mean fraud.
You can't tell just because an inaccurate statement was made on a mortgage application that it was done with an intent to deceive, and that's the key for fraud.
Cook graduated from Spelman College and grew up in Milledgeville, where her mother was Georgia College's first black tenured faculty member.
My family lived through the events that brought Milledgeville out of a deeply segregated South and made Georgia College and State University into the university it is today.
During a 2024 commencement address there, Cook described integrating the elementary school run by the college in the 1960s.
Some of the students did not welcome us, but the school did.
An attorney for Cook says she's filing a lawsuit challenging Trump's authority to fire a Fed governor, a test of executive power that could end up at the U.S. Supreme Court. Sam Greenglass, WABE News.
Well, with dozens of Georgia National Guard members set to mobilize next month to assist at immigration and customs enforcement facilities in Georgia, state lawmakers are chiming in support and against the decision. WABE's Raul Bali had more.
State Representatives Derek Jackson of Tyrone and David Clark of Beaufort are both military veterans and both sit on the State House Defense and Veteran Affairs Committee. Jackson, a Democrat running for governor, calls Brian Kemp's decision a misuse of the National Guard.
There's a reason why the military and the police, the local law enforcement, are different. We're trained differently, right? Local police officers, for example, they're trained how to exercise the Fourth Amendment and the Fifth Amendment. Military men and women are not trained in that manner.
Jackson also believes the move is unconstitutional and a setup for martial law. Clark, a Republican running for lieutenant governor, supports the new mission at ICE facilities, and he says he trusts Kemp and President Donald Trump on deciding whether to put Guard members on the streets.
By handling critical support and administrative tasks, the Guard could free up ICE agents to focus on what matters most, and that's arresting violent criminal illegals and keeping our communities safe. And
Clark believes the move is delivering on what voters wanted. Raul Bali, WABE News.
Well, dozens of Centers for Disease Control and Prevention current and former employees are continuing to protest what they call the politicizing of the vital agency. As WABE's Christopher Alston reported, the protest this week comes in support of the agency's top leadership, several of whom resigned following the firing of CDC Director Susan Monarez.
USA, not RFK! USA, not RFK!
Members of the public joined current and former CDC employees to line the street outside the center's entrance in Atlanta Thursday. Jill Daugherty spent 8 years with the CDC, most recently as a leader of a traumatic brain injury team, before losing her job as part of the agency's reduction in force.
We think that they've made a really difficult but good decision, and we just want to let them know that we love them and thank them for their service.
Former Chief Medical Officer Deborah Howery was met with cheers and applause from the crowd.
I just can't tell you what CDC means to all of us, the mission, the work, your commitment. Thank you, and we're so honored to have done this for you.
Can you talk about what the last
Howery was joined by Daniel Jernigan, Director of Infectious Disease Research, and the former Director of Immunization and Respiratory Diseases, Dimitri Daskalakis. The three say they were escorted off the property earlier in the day. Daskalakis called for attendees to remember David Rose, the DeKalb County officer killed during a shooting at the CDC earlier this month.
And what I said to my team in the last email that I sent was what they said at the end of every eulogy at his funeral. We have to go, but now you all got this. And it is your duty to the country to take care of you.
Democratic State Representative Jasmine Clark attended the walkout. She's a biology professor at nearby Emory University.
And it's one of those things where it's almost a privilege that people don't know what they do because they're doing their job so well. But now we have an administration that's hell-bent on trying to take that away.
Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has appointed one of his deputies, Jim O'Neill, to serve as acting director of the CDC. Christopher Alston, WABE News.
You're listening to WABE's Week in Review with me, Alex Helmick. Well, when thousands of people fled New Orleans during Hurricane Katrina 20 years ago, they uprooted their lives and for many their businesses. As they settled here in Atlanta, they brought their hometown culture. WABE's Marlon Hyde visited a couple business owners that are still doing just that 2 decades on.
Inside what looks like a small dance studio with wooden floors, a TV plays a video of people dressed up in colorful outfits with a big band playing. That's where Brandy Charlo is teaching me some New Orleans second line dance steps. Charlo moved here a few years ago from New Orleans, where she started as a florist. Her business, Be Lucid Floral, has now expanded to a museum honoring second line culture.
I can bring the culture here and allow people to show the pop and slide and mean mug and spin and get to feel the rhythm, that spiritual feeling that we normally get when we're in the streets.
This space allows her to honor and mourn her hometown.
So if I think back 20 years, my shop in New Orleans is located in the lower 9 where the barges hit heavy. That's where everything, the disaster happened.
Charlo evacuated, only to return to a city she didn't recognize.
Everything you name it, still in the streets. Bodies were still around.
Her car had drifted blocks from where she parked.
So I went to check on the house. Everything had fallen down, and you couldn't even walk. You had to walk through soft sheetrock.
Charlo ultimately came 500 miles east to Atlanta, where she met Keisha Marie Mackey, who was also from the 9th Ward. At the time of Katrina, a 30-year-old Mackey was working at a hotel where she would usually ride out a heavy storm.
You used to have to sleep at the hotels.
But for good reason, she decided to evacuate.
I was 7 months pregnant. I was like, I didn't want to go to the hotel.
Mackey says she jumped on the interstate before it was closed. She packed one outfit because she thought she would be returning home.
And once the levees broke, we had to watch that on TV, and we knew we weren't going back home.
Mackey looks down at a photo of her with her daughters and her father. It's the only family picture she now has. All of her belongings were destroyed, and she lost her great aunt in the flooding. So she started making Atlanta her home. And thanks to some generous former hotel customers, she got a car, a job, and somewhere to stay. That was not a hotel. A few years later, Mackie had saved enough money to start her business, Everything Nola Cafe. The original location is in Sylvan Hills.
It was a food desert when we first got here.
Mackie's Cafe was serving up healthy options as well as New Orleans classics like snowballs, crawfish, and king cakes, often to other evacuees, now residents in Atlanta.
People was ecstatic. Like, they'd really be waiting on me literally to get off of 85 to come down the highway to pull in with these boxes and boxes of king cakes.
But earlier this year, the owners gave her 2 months to leave the building.
It was like, I don't want to say as tragic as Hurricane Katrina, but it was like, ironically, 20 years later, here I'm displaced again.
And the area is down a critical source for food.
Now it's back to being a food desert because they're not doing nothing with the property yet. It's taking a very long time for them to do whatever it is, the plans that they have.
In that time, Mackie now does smaller events and pop-ups, but has missed out on 5 months of her regular business. A grant from Invest Atlanta, the city's economic development arm, is helping her reopen. Now, she's going to be part of a Black-owned food hall down the street from her first location. It's smaller than her last building, but it comes with other perks. Her friend, Brandy Charlo.
She has the spot downstairs, and I'm up here, and we're going to bring New Orleans here to allow the people that have not decided to come back to experience New Orleans.
Mackie is marking the 20th year since Katrina with another new beginning, opening her Everything Nola Cafe in its new Capitol View location this weekend. Marlon Hyde, WABE News.
Fleeing Hurricane Katrina, many residents came to Metro Atlanta for safety. And as WABE's Dormaya Vance reported, some chose to stay and build their lives here.
It's 2005 in New Orleans. Families are bracing for a storm that would significantly change their lives in Louisiana forever. Hurricane Katrina.
You know, my family evacuated on the weekend before.
Blair Haley was in his late 20s when he and his family left ahead of Katrina.
And we were in Houston for 2 or 3 days. And so we decided the Monday of, I think, Labor Day, that we were all going to go to Atlanta.
Haley's family is among the 100,000 or so people who came to Georgia for safety. Trinice Gant's family did the same.
My mom had the suitcase open and she was just throwing clothes. And I'm like, what are you doing? She said, your dad called and said we better get the hell up out of there.
Gant says she and her family only packed 3 days of clothes. Susan Levitis and her family also got out in a rush.
So the day before the storm, we packed everything up. I decided not to bring all of my belongings all the way upstairs because I'd been through this before, so I just sort of lifted everything about 6 or 7 feet off the ground.
Once in Atlanta, Blair Haley was stuck in a hotel for nearly half a year. Gant's family stayed with her sister, making it a packed house.
So we're talking now about 30 plus people in my sister's house for about over a week. 30 plus people.
Levitis, who's originally from Atlanta, immediately jumped into planning her daughter's bat mitzvah.
I had to restage the whole thing here in Atlanta, and I had 3 weeks to do it, and I was pregnant and was watching my city, be destroyed.
Levitis says it was hard for her family to stay with her parents for nearly a year. She wanted to go back to New Orleans, but the conditions were unsafe during her pregnancy.
I was also an older pregnant woman. I was 43. We were advised that the environment, both the air, the water, the just living in general, was going to be very challenging.
For Blair Haley, who's a Black man, finding employment and stability was difficult during his stint in Atlanta.
The name Blair Haley connotated a white woman to a lot of people. I got phone calls based on me having sent my resume out, and the moment they realized that I was the person behind the resume, without even an interview, they said that they didn't think the job was appropriate for me.
Haley, who's now an entrepreneur, left Atlanta around 2008 for better employment in Washington, D.C. Trinice Gant initially went back to New Orleans shortly after the storm, but only for a couple of months.
Because I remember sitting in the break room and looking at my check stub And I was just like basically working paycheck to paycheck here. And I have a whole apartment in Atlanta fully furnished.
Gant has lived here permanently since 2006, pursuing a career in teaching. With the anniversary this week, she says Hurricane Katrina definitely changed her life path.
I always think back to what happened, where it led me to. And sometimes I think if it had not happened, where would I be in life? Would I be in this career I'm doing now, or what would I be doing?
And Susan Monarez reflects on having community support around her.
It was such a monumental experience that I think everyone knew and understood and treated us with an incredible amount of kindness and generosity. And that was really surprising, incredible, and humbling.
Mm-hmm. It just reminds me of good old Southern hospitality.
Yes, for real. For real.
As of today, there's no exact number of people still living in Atlanta following Hurricane Katrina's impact. Dormaya Vance, WABE News.
That's all for the show this week. My thanks to the WAB News team for all the great work. I'm Alex Helmick. Thank you for supporting WAB and for listening to The Week in Review.